Good afternoon. My name is April Price with the Community Environmental Council, and thank you so much for joining our webinar today, Home Solar, Electric Vehicles, and Battery Systems. We certainly have a lot to cover, and in this time of uncertainty, we really appreciate your time today, and we are certainly glad to have you with us. All right, so let's just go ahead and get started. All right, here's a brief overview of what you can expect for the next hour. I'll tell you a little bit about our organization, then we'll get to hear from my colleague Michael Chiakos about electric vehicles. Then we'll jump into some solar basics, and you'll hear from my colleague Aubrey Baker about the Solarize Ventura County program. And last, we'll finish with some battery systems, and we'll actually get to hear from a community member who's done this already. Richard Baldwin, a local Ventura resident, participated in the Solarize Ventura 2019 program. Also joining us today off camera are two experts in solar and battery technologies. We have Ish Goldstein from CECSB Power Solutions, and we have Chelsea from California Solar Electric. All right, and while we have these two folks on the line, we're going to be covering a lot of material, and we're not going to ask you to save all of your questions to the very end. So please use the Zoom Q&A function to ask any question that comes up, and Ish, Chelsea, and the rest of our team will be happy to answer your questions. We'll also be compiling all of those questions, or the top 10 at least, and sending them to you after the webinar. All right, so the Community Environmental Council is hosting this webinar, and we are a local nonprofit that's focused on regional solutions to climate change. We are celebrating our 50th anniversary this year, and we work in the 5 initiatives that are shown in icons at the bottom of your screen. Today, we're doing a 2-for-1. Drive clean and go solar. All right, so that we can shape our webinar to meet your needs, Iris, who's also joining us to help out behind the scenes, will you go ahead and launch our poll? All right, please let us know. Are you here to learn about the benefits of driving an electric vehicle? Are you a little bit more interested in solar and energy storage? Or maybe you're really looking for a trifecta to add all 3 technologies to your home. So go ahead and get those questions answered. All right. And perhaps some of you already have solar and you're interested in adding energy storage. That's actually a newer technology that we've added to our program that has become quite popular, especially with the advent of the public safety power shutoffs. And knowing that you can have a resilient power system in your home is really a valuable thing. All right, so fantastic. We have a pretty good mix here. So about 42% of our participants would like to purchase an electric vehicle. Wonderful. And some folks are just here to learn. And then about 42% of folks would like to add solar to their homes also. Almost 20% already have solar but are looking to add battery. Okay, wonderful. Well, I think that we will cover everything that you need to know. All right, and I'll welcome Michael Chiakos, our Energy Program Director here at the Community Environmental Council, EV guru, to walk us through why electric vehicles.
Great, thank you, April, and welcome everybody. Glad you're joining us here today to talk about one of my favorite subjects, which is electric vehicles. And as April mentioned, I'm CEC's Director of Energy and Climate Programs. And I've also been driving an electric vehicle since 2012, both a plug-in hybrid as well as a pure battery electric vehicle. And since 2013, I've had solar on my house. So I know firsthand the experiences, the synergistic technologies of electric vehicles plus solar, they help pay each other back faster, as well as it's just a really amazing feeling to be driving on sunshine. So why electric vehicles? There's a lot of reasons why they're a lot better than gasoline vehicles. And we're going to be talking about some of those benefits, going through all the different electric vehicles and plug-in hybrids that are on the market, talking about charging, incentives. You're basically going to get a little crash course over the next 15 minutes on electric vehicles. So one of the most important things I think about why they're so much better than gas vehicles is that they're highly efficient. You see these EPA fuel economy numbers of over 100 miles per gallon equivalent, which is amazing. Electric motor is about 3 or 4 times more efficient than a gasoline engine. And if you think about it, there's none of that waste that you see in a gasoline engine with the sound, the vibration, the heat, the pollution coming out the back. With an electric vehicle, most of that energy goes straight into bringing the car down the road. There's also not even a tailpipe, so you have 0 tailpipe emissions and really great benefit for air quality. Along with carbon pollution, you reduce greenhouse gas emissions about 75% just plugging into Edison's grid. And many people have Clean Power Alliance, 100% renewable electricity, so that's 100% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. We like to point out that electric vehicles get cleaner as they age, as the grid mix cleans up, whereas a gas vehicle actually gets dirtier because the oil is getting dirtier that we're tapping into with all the easy oil already gone and having to go into that, tar sands and cyclic steaming and hard to get oil, as well as emissions components fail on gasoline vehicles over time and they get more and more polluting. And of course, the best of both worlds is if you have an electric vehicle and go solar at your house, you're driving on sunshine, you can fuel your vehicle up at your house rather than having to go to a gas station. And it's just a really great feeling. Next. So it's not just all the benefits, it's also a lot of fun to drive an electric vehicle. If anyone's been in one, you've experienced that spaceship-like torque. And it's not just Teslas, it's all electric vehicles have that amazing feeling of, so you can see in this torque curve, you just go straight up. You don't have to shift into different gears. They're also very inexpensive. The fuel is very cheap. It's about $1.40 per gallon equivalent, or even less if you go solar. And then you have reduced maintenance costs. The County of Alameda did a big study on their fleet and found about half the costs overall. And Consumer Reports just put out a report that you can Google just a few weeks ago that showed how electric vehicles are about half the maintenance costs over many years of a gasoline vehicle. So savings and fun. Next. But the carbon impact is a really important thing in these days of the climate crisis. And also, you've probably heard that California has a target of carbon neutrality by 2045. The really hard nut to crack, though, is transportation. You can see here it's the biggest section of the pie, that 41%. And then it's also actually about half of those industrial emissions as well from oil production and refining. So it's about 50% of our carbon emissions here in California. So we really need to tackle the transportation sector. And at CEC, we work on programs to drive less, which is very important, as well as drive clean. And in going from a gasoline vehicle to an electric vehicle, you can significantly reduce your carbon emissions. The average gas vehicle uses about 5 metric tons of carbon per year. And with an electric car, you can cut that down to 0 to 1 metric ton. So it's a huge impact. Driving is really the biggest environmental impact we make each day. And just by switching to an electric vehicle could be as much as all the other things that you do combined. Here's some good examples of different things. We've all heard about how meat, or especially beef, creates a lot of greenhouse gas emissions. 1 cheeseburger is equivalent to about 10 miles of driving a gasoline car. Producing an iPhone is about equivalent to 200 miles. And the easiest way to use a lot of carbon in one day is in a long flight, about 3,850 miles if you went from LA to Japan. So driving an electric vehicle is one of the easiest ways to drastically cut down your carbon footprint. Next. And because of all those reasons, EV sales are really increasing. It's about 1.5 million in the US right now, and 730,000 electric vehicles have been sold in California. Last year is about 9% of new vehicle sales. So we're just seeing a huge explosion in the amount of vehicles. There's over 40 different ones in all kinds of shapes and sizes, small and large sedans, SUVs, minivans that are coming on the market. We have about 21,000 on the Central Coast, Ventura, Santa Barbara, and San Luis Obispo counties. Next. So I'm going to just walk through the different types of electric vehicles now, starting with the most affordable ones. And you can now get some electric vehicles for only $5,000 to $10,000. These are often maybe 5 to 9 years old. They're kind of the first generation of electric vehicles. They do have a little bit of a limited range, usually under 80 to 100 miles. So they may be most appropriate for someone who wants just a really cheap, affordable car. Maybe they have 2 or more cars in their household and they can swap one that gets out for this car that they could commute in, run errands in, use it mostly for local driving. Although we'll talk about fast charging and some medium length trips you could do in these electric cars in just a minute. In the top right is a Nissan Leaf. It's one of the top selling electric cars. Then you have other electric vehicles from Ford and Volkswagen and the Fiat 500 electric up in the top left. So these are all pure electric vehicles. They only have a battery and electric range of 80 to 100 miles, but they're very affordable. And there are some incentives for buying used vehicles, as we'll talk in a few minutes. Next. Next vehicles are a little more expensive. The used ones of the same age range are about 10 to 15,000. But plug-in hybrids combine the best worlds of an electric vehicle and a hybrid. Typically, they get a range of about 20 to 50 miles of all electric range. So I used to have a Chevy Volt. That's the one in the top right. I had that car for 6 years. And I would sometimes go a whole month without using a drop of gas. So the Chevy Volt and then is in the top right, and then on the bottom are 2 plugins from Ford. In the top left is a Toyota Prius Prime. So all plug-in hybrids. So you can go 20 to 50 miles, all electric. You're around town driving. But if you go on a longer trip or a road trip, the hybrid gas engine kicks in, and you can get great 40 to 50 mile per gallon fuel economy. So these are really great vehicles if you have a 1-car household, or if you maybe don't have access to charging at home, but have access to charging at work or in some public places, and you're wanting to primarily drive electric, but be able to go on a longer road trip. Next. So now we're getting into the new electric vehicles, and after incentives, they start as affordable as $20,000, which is pretty amazing because that's the price of, say, a Toyota Corolla. Most of these vehicles have ranges of over 200 miles. You can fast charge them, and they are totally adequate for being a primary car for just a 1-car household, especially if you have access to home charging. In the top right is the Chevy Bolt. It's one of the top selling electric vehicles that has some really amazing lease deals right now, which I'll talk to about in a minute. You could probably lease one of these electric vehicles for free if you make under $104,000, as well as the next going clockwise, the Nissan Leaf. You could also lease that for free. We have a few vehicles from Tesla, and then the bottom left is the Toyota Prius Prime plug-in hybrid. You might be able to get that for about $25,000. And then the top left is the Tesla Model 3, which is the top selling electric car in California, selling as many of these as Toyota Corollas, even though at $35,000, it's actually about twice the price. But it's pretty amazing that now you can get Tesla, a very functional electric car, for around $35,000, which is actually a little less than the average price of an average new car. So electric vehicles are much more affordable now. We can go on to the next slide. These are some of the new electric vehicles that are hitting the market later this year or next year. The top right is, and you can see there's many crossovers and SUVs that are coming. Top right is the Toyota RAV4 Prime plug-in hybrid. And then bottom right, we have SUV from Rivian. It's a new vehicle. They have a huge investments from Ford and Amazon. People think that they're going to be kind of the next Tesla and the next big American automaker. They're rolling out 10,000 delivery vans for Amazon. So definitely one to watch. You have trucks starting to hit the market. You have GM's Hummer truck and the Tesla Cybertruck in the bottom, very polarizing design. And then on the left side, you have Ford's Mach-E Mustang crossover and the new crossover from Volvo that are hitting the market. Next. So all the incentives, and it's pretty complex. You may have questions. You can learn more at this website down there, electricdrive805.org. But there's a few primary incentives. The first one is the federal tax credit. So this is actually a tax credit, and you have to have this amount of liability on your taxes if you're going to claim it all. And you would take this on next year's taxes. So it's up to $7,500. It's only for purchasing new vehicles, electric vehicles. And also Tesla and GM don't qualify because they've hit their 200,000 vehicle caps. But most of the other manufacturers, you could get this full federal tax credit. There's also a utility rebate for Edison. It's about $1,000, and you can actually take this on a new or a used car, as long as it's you're one of the first 3 owners of that used car. This Edison rebate is going away at the end of December 31st. So if you are interested, you might want to claim that soon. There's also the California rebate, which is $2,000 for an electric vehicle or $1,000 for a plug-in hybrid. And if you're low to moderate income, so that's if you make $77,000 or less for a family of 4, you would get an extra $2,500. So that would be $4,500 for a pure EV for new vehicle. And then you can also, if you make under $104,000 for a family of 4, you could qualify for a $5,000 grant through the Clean Vehicle Assistance Program. This is the only one you have to do up front. So if you're interested and it's hit these thresholds, it's about, I think, $50,000 for one person or up to $104 for a family of 4. You should definitely go on the program website and apply, because it can take a few weeks to a few months to qualify, but that would just be a grant that is taken off the initial price of your vehicle, both for a used or a new vehicle or even a lease. And so right now, the lease deals are so amazing that you could actually, if you can qualify just for that CVAT program, as well as get the utility rebate and the standard $2,000 California rebate, between that $8,000, you could actually lease a Bolt for free. My friends just leased one for 3 years for $6,800, and you can see there's 8,000 incentives here. So definitely something to explore. If you can go to the next slide. We've actually put all these things together in a little packet called the 8 steps to see if you qualify for a free EV. Here's the link, and these will all be in the slides that are sent out after you, so you can click through it. And it's really because the lease rates are cheaper than I've ever seen in 10 years of doing this right now. I think they might only last for another month or 2, maybe to the end of the year. It's really hard to know. But because of the pandemic, the automakers are offering incredible deals, and that, you know, if you can qualify for, you could even lease one for free. Even if you have a higher income, just qualify for $3,000 in incentives, you could probably lease the Chevy Bolt for about $100 a month. You may save $50 or $100 in gas, and you know, depreciation on your current car is probably at least a couple thousand. So it's a really good deal, and I would highly encourage people to think about leasing a Bolt or other electric vehicle. You can also use those programs if you're in the market for a used electric vehicle, and so you could qualify for that CVAT program as well as the SCE rebate. So I know I went through a lot here, but definitely go to this website and it will walk you through all the different steps to see if you qualify and which ones you can get. Next. So charging, one of the most important things if you're going to be driving an electric vehicle is to have access to charging. I think that if you have access to charging at home, it's actually much more convenient to have an electric vehicle than have a gas vehicle, because it just takes about 20 seconds. I charge up once or twice a week at my house in my driveway, much easier than finding a gas station, once a week. There's 3 types of charging: level 1, 2, and 3. Level 1 is just a regular 110 outlet like you see here. You probably have dozens of them in your house. Hopefully you might even have one if you have access to parking at your house in your garage or driveway already. Very easy way to charge with the charger the portable charger that comes with all electric vehicles. And it's called a trickle charge. You only get 3 to 5 miles per hour. So seems really slow. You're like, that's way too slow, but you wouldn't really go somewhere and charge it up. You would just charge at your house overnight. And if you drive less than 50 miles a day, this could be totally adequate for you. With my Chevy Volt, I just use a 110 outlet in my driveway for about 6 years, and it worked totally great. You just charge up every night or every couple nights, and you have a full range in the morning. Particularly if you have a plug-in hybrid, level 1 may just be a very easy, affordable way to charge up your electric vehicle. You can also add a level 2 charging station, so that's a 240 volt rather than 120 volt. This is kind of like a dryer plug that you may already have in your garage, or you could add one pretty affordably. Mine costs about $800 through a local solar company. And this would give your electric vehicle, most of them 20, 30 miles per hour range. So you could fully charge it up 200 or 300 miles overnight. So this is a really great option. These are also what most of the public charging stations, like here on the left, there's these about 1,000 charging stations, public ones, across the whole Central Coast now. And then the fastest charging, level 3, is 480 volt charging. There's about 172 of these charging stations across our 3 counties. And they range in speed. So even the older Nissan Leafs that you can get for $500 or $5,000, they can fast charge some of them. And they add about 60 miles in 20 or 30 minutes at 50 kilowatts. So, this would enable you to, instead of just using that vehicles around town, commuting around Ventura, you could take your car from, Ventura to LA and back, maybe fast charge it once on your way home. When you stop to grab lunch or, use a bathroom break or do some shopping or whatever you're doing, there's many of these fast chargers all around in convenient places. And then there's also even faster charging stations. Tesla superchargers are the most well-known network, but Volkswagen and others are building networks of very fast charging stations now that you can cross the country in. And you can get up to 1,000 per miles in an hour of charging. So very fast. I actually used to have a Chevy Volt for 6 years, plug-in hybrid. The last 2 years, I've had a Tesla Model 3. And my wife and I, this summer, we went all the way to Arches National Park in Utah. So did almost 3,000 miles over about 12 days, getting out into really rural parts of Utah, camping down dirt roads. And it was really amazing how far electric vehicles have come, and now you can take them virtually anywhere. Next. Just getting into wrapping up, but I wanted to cover the time of use rates. So if you have an electric vehicle, you can get on these time of use D prime rates. So you can actually charge your car very affordably. You just want to avoid charging it from 4 to 9 p.m., which is peak times, but all the rest of the time, all night and most of the day, you could charge for 14 cents a kilowatt hour. A good rule of thumb, if you look at the top, that 14 cents per kilowatt hour is equal up to about $1.40 per gallon gas, so about 10 times. So very affordable to charge up your EV because you're getting over 100 miles per gallon equivalent. If you use a public charging station that's 25 cents a kilowatt hour, it would be like paying $2.50 a gallon for gas. Next. ElectricDrive805.org is your best resource for all of these things. We're a coalition of CEC and the APCDs of Ventura, Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo. Next. And just as a summary, a lot of what I hear from people are about the challenges or drawbacks of an electric vehicle or the longer recharge time. And really it just takes a different mindset of charging up at night at your house, or if you have charging at work during the day. And 90% of that charging could happen at home while you're sleeping. And as I mentioned, it's actually much more convenient than going to a gas station. It is a little different when you're going on a road trip, but there are many fast charging stations all over California and the country now that makes it a lot easier. Another thing is that people have questions about limited range. This isn't an issue if you have a plug-in hybrid and have that hybrid gas engine. The older electric vehicles may work better if you have a 2+ car households, but if you have one of those longer range 200-mile plus newer battery electric vehicles, you could have that as your primary car. And then the cost, many EVs are now less expensive than gas cars. You saw you could get a Nissan Leaf for about $20, just like a Toyota Corolla, and even for $35,000. So the prices are much more affordable now than they were 5 or 10 years ago. Next. And here's just a summary. You've heard all of these things, but I would just really encourage you to be part of the solution. It's really fun to drive an electric vehicle. It's much easier than it has been, 5 or 10 years ago. You could save a lot of money and cut your carbon pollution and tailpipe pollution drastically. So please consider an electric vehicle. Tell your friends about those 8 steps to getting a free EV. I think it's very compelling to look at that for your personal situation. Next. Thanks, everyone. Here's the best resources, actually. And that last one there is all the different current lease offers that have the ones on the Chevy Bolt or the Nissan Leaf that are really amazing right now. And then the other ones are Plug-in Cars has reviews and all the different 40 models of electric vehicles and plug-in hybrids. And then PlugShare is where you can find all the electric vehicle charging stations.
Great, thank you so much, Michael. Folks, Michael is he's already shared a real wealth of knowledge, but please take advantage of this and drop in some questions into the Q&A feature of this webinar. All right, so great, now your minds are full and buzzing with electric vehicles, and we're gonna transition over to the solar systems that will power that, that transportation option. So I'll be getting into the program specifics of something we called Solarize Ventura, but we'll just start with some real solar basics. This is a home that installed solar through our program last year. And again, like electric vehicles, there's lots of really basic benefits of solar. Getting to power your home with a renewable energy source is a really valuable thing. And that maybe is the most obvious. But one thing that people often don't think about is you're really looking to increase the value of your home. So there was a study done by the Lawrence Berkeley Lab, it was about 5 years ago, that showed that homes in California with solar sold for about $50,000 more than comparable homes without solar. So you might be looking at making a $15,000 or much less investment on solar, but based on this data, you are looking to recoup that investment. And then really from day one, if you install solar on your home, you're going to be saving money on your electricity bill. So that's of course very compelling. And an example of what your electric bill might look like after you go solar. This is just a sample customer. Their solar system was, let's see, $13,000 after all of the federal tax credits, which I'll get into. So you can see here, this family spent about $170 a month on electricity every month. And then after going solar, that bill dropped to about $30 a month. So, people think about investing in a new kitchen or new home upgrades, but you're really looking to get a very quick return on your investment by adding solar to your home. And here's a number to check out. That $68,000 over 25 years is, I think, a very compelling offer. All right, I went through most of these. You're also really taking some ownership and some independence from the utilities electricity rates. So Michael mentioned, I assume that most of you in Ventura County are customers of CPA or Clean Power Alliance. And he gave an example of a tariff. This is another example of a tariff in or a set of prices for your electricity in the summer months. So you can see here there's big changes in the prices for the electricity that you buy depending on the time of day that you purchase it. So by becoming a solar customer, you just have a little bit more ownership over your electricity consumption. All right, so a few really basic details of how solar works. We're probably all most familiar with walking around our neighborhoods and seeing those beautiful solar panels on our neighbors' homes. So the solar panels themselves are photovoltaic solar systems, are the actual things that are capturing the sun's energy and converting that into energy that we can use in our homes. There are other pieces of the system that you might not be as familiar with. So it says here, number 2, inverter. So that's a component that changes the direct current power that is created on your solar panel to the alternating current that is used by appliances in your home. So typically there was only one option, historically for an inverter. It was one centralized inverter. So this was one kind of box that would be probably mounted in your garage or outside. And these centralized string inverters work just fine. But they do have, a couple of areas of improvement. So for instance, if there is shading or damage to one of your panels, then all of the panels that are connected in series here have a reduced power output when you have this one centralized string inverter. So the solar industry has come up with 2 potential solutions for this shading issue. The first is the microinverter option. And this technology simply means that there is a small inverter mounted on the back of each individual panel, so that if one of the panels is damaged or shaded, it's not going to impact the production of the rest of your system. Another benefit is that you can see in if you go solar, you're going to get this neat app or login on your computer where you can monitor your solar system. If you have microinverter or power optimizers, you're going to be able to see the individual production from each of your solar panels, which is a kind of fun thing to geek out about. All right, so this other option here, power optimizers, it's simply another option. You have one centralized string inverter that also is associated with a component on the back of each solar panel. Through the Solarize Ventura program, which we'll get into shortly, the micro inverters are our most popular item. All right, so here we are back at our beautiful model home here. So you have your solar panels, your inverter, and then you're going to maintain connection to the electricity grid. And so why? Some people think, oh, I want to get off grid. Well, actually, there's quite a bit of financial benefit to maintaining your connection to the grid, and it's what the vast majority of people do in an urban setting. If you're looking at solar for your cabin out in the woods, this is a different conversation. But for most folks within Ventura County, you are eligible for a great utility program called Net Energy Metering. So, I can make my slides go forward. That simply means that the energy that your solar system produces that you don't need right away is sent back onto the grid. And your electricity meter keeps track of those kilowatt hours that are sent onto the grid, and you get a monetary credit based on the value of the electricity at the time that it was produced. So recall that there are different electricity prices depending on the time of day. So here's an example for us to think through it together. Now, this is the same tariff or set of pricing that I introduced earlier from Clean Power Alliance. In this example tariff, the on-peak price is close to 26 cents. So that's most expensive, and that's in the evening between, I think it's 4 to 8 or 4 to 9 p.m. Off-peak is your 7 cents, and then super off-peak would be in the middle of the night, and that's your cheapest here. So let's walk through what this customer sees through their net energy metering agreement. All right, you can see here, this zero line here is the baseline. And whenever there are bars above that zero line, there is electricity being sent. There's electricity that's being used. And whenever the bars are below, the electricity is being sent back onto the grid. All right, so here, why is this customer using so much electricity in the middle of the night between 12 a.m. and 4 a.m. Big party? Oh, you were paying attention to Michael's presentation. That's right. This customer is charging an electric vehicle in the middle of the night, and it's a good idea for them to do so because it's the cheapest electricity. All right, so then the sun comes out, and sorry, the bars are a little bit light here, but you can see here that these bars below the line here, the solar system turned on, and they are starting to send electricity back to the grid. And so they are getting credits for each kilowatt hour that they send back to the grid, in this case at close to 7 cents. And then in the evening, they continue to send electricity back to the grid in the later afternoon. And these are actually really high credit. So this is getting close to the 25, 26 cents per kilowatt credit. So, and then in the evening, they're coming home and they're starting to use a little bit of electricity from the grid. So even though it looks like this customer is using a lot more electricity from the grid than they are sending back, the value of these credits is much higher because of the time of day that they are produced. So again, it's a little bit complicated. Please enter your questions into the Q&A here, but this is the general concept of NEM, or net energy metering. And this would be just a more typical customer who hasn't quite yet invested in an electric vehicle, less usage in the middle of the night, more usage or production in the middle of the day, and then higher usage in the evening. All right, so I'll go ahead and introduce my colleague at the Community Environmental Council, Aubrey Baker, to walk us through the next few slides.
Thanks, April. Hi, everyone. I will be telling you a bit about our Solarize Ventura County program. And so the Community Environmental Council has been trying to help people go solar for over a decade. And when we ask people what their biggest concerns are, these are them. And there are a lot of reasonable concerns when considering going solar. How do you know that you're picking the right contractor or the right kind of panel for your particular house? And how much does solar even cost? And how am I supposed to pay for solar? And that is where our Solarize Ventura County program comes in. In previous programs, we have helped 225 customers go solar in Ventura County alone. And the goal of our program is just to make it easier and more affordable for people to go solar. So what we did was we gathered a committee of energy, solar, and financial experts, as well as community representatives, to select the solar companies we work with in our program. On top of working with vetted installers, we also negotiated discounted prices on panels. So when confronting those concerns we talked about earlier, through our program, you can rest assured that you are working with a contractor that has been evaluated by an independent panel of experts, that you're being offered manufacturers and high value panels that have great reputations. Also that you are getting a great price for solar, and you can get advice on the different ways that you can pay for solar. An added bonus of going through our program is that the CEC offers individualized coaching to support you in making these important decisions. And that is my job. I am a solar coach for this program. And so how it would work is if you have any questions or concerns, you could reach out to me at any point, and I am always happy to help. All right, and so really the goals of the Solarize Ventura County program, we are really just looking to increase the amount of clean, renewable energy in Ventura County, while also supporting local businesses and the local economy. Lastly, we want to do that while making it less stressful for customers by both reducing the costs of solar and by ensuring quality. And lastly, and April will talk a little bit more about this later on, by gaining a bit of profit from this program, the CEC is hoping to be able to continue bringing beneficial programs like Solarize to the South Coast. And please remember, if you have any questions, to put them in the Q&A section down below. That's all I have. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Aubrey. All right, and in order to be eligible for this program, you do need to own a home in Ventura County, and you need a spot for your solar. So most people tend to add solar to their roofs. It's a great open space. But if you don't have enough roof space or your roof is shaded, the companies that we have vetted through this program, which are California Solar Electric and CECSB Power Solutions, also offer ground-mounted systems. So when I say appropriate roof, what does that really mean? You want a roof with a lot of sunshine, and you want a roof that's in fairly good repair. So if it's time to replace your roof, there can be some financial benefits in pairing that roof replacement with the solar installation. Some people also ask about, well, you know, another solar company, I can't go solar if I have a Spanish tile roof. The companies that we're working with are great, working with a variety of roof types. And not every roof is perfect for solar. If you have a really, really pitch or really shaded roof, it's not going to be a great fit. But a south-facing or west-facing roof can be a great option. Also, this program is limited time in nature. So we set up a sale and it will be expiring on December 9th, 2020. So whether or not you go solar through our program, there are some incentives to consider. There's a federal tax credit that is currently at a 26% rate. Now, if you're just beginning to consider solar, it's likely that your installation will probably take place in 2021. Not to fret, 22% federal tax credit is still quite attractive. And you know, act now, because this federal incentive is set to disappear in 2022. And I also walked through the benefits of net energy metering, which is not, it's not a universal option for solar customers throughout the United States. All right, so a quick example of what you might pay to go solar through this program. This is just an example, a system 4.5 kilowatt or kW system might be sized to about $125 a month electricity bill. So you'd be looking at an upfront cost of about $14,000. I did apply the 26% federal tax credit here, so you can adjust that for 22% as well to bring down the price to you know, just over $10,000. And included in that price, as Aubrey mentioned, CEC does receive a payment from the solar installers, but this is a value that has already been captured in the discounted pricing. And this simply allows us to continue our programming. All right, so what kind of panels and what equipment is going on your roof? So there are several options through the Solarize Ventura County program. And again, these panel options have been vetted to have excellent manufacturer warranties. So there are 2 options from each company, and these options are based on how efficient you need a panel to be. So if you have plenty of roof space to work with, you might opt for the lower cost panel from either company, because you simply have room for more panels. If you're really looking to get a lot of electricity out of a small space, you might opt for the higher efficiency panel, which will be a little bit more expensive. All right, I mentioned most of these warranties are 25 years, and the solar companies that we're working with also have excellent workmanship warranties associated with these sales. All right, how do you pay for this? It's still a lot of money. Some folks that we work with do opt for secured loans through home equity lines of credit. So certainly an option that you might already be familiar with. You might not be as familiar with solar loans, unsecured loans. This market has really expanded in the last few years with really decent APRs. You know, I talked to some folks that do choose to finance their system through these loans, and from day one, their loan payments are cheaper than their electricity bills. So from day one, you're saving, you're paying off your system, and then perhaps in if it's a 12-year loan situation, you start getting that free electricity as soon as it's paid off. I do want to make sure that you're also familiar with this idea of leases and power purchase agreements. This is not an option that we offer through the Solarize Ventura County program, but it's pretty prevalent. And so perhaps you've had a salesperson come and knock on your door and say, you can go solar for free. This person is not lying to you, but they are selling you a power purchase agreement. So through this agreement, a solar company will come and install a solar system on your roof, and they will maintain ownership of that solar system. And for a period of usually 20 years, they will sell you all of the electricity that those panels generate. So in some cases, you might save 20% on your electricity bill, but in some cases, the price for each kilowatt hour escalate each year. So it's really important to be careful and really read the contracts if you're considering a lease. All right, so what happens when the grid goes down? It's important to think about because it's becoming more common here with our public safety power shutoffs. Certainly folks might be most familiar with generators. There are, you know, our more typical generators that are run on diesel or other fossil fuel power generators like propane. If you really just need a generator or a backup solution for maybe one appliance, such as a CPAP machine, you might look into something called a battery generator or a solar generator. And this is simply an appliance that you would keep plugged in to your wall. And then when the electricity goes down, you'll have a short, limited amount of time of power on that device. Just want to make sure you're aware of that option. Through the Solarize program, we are offering batteries that are a little bit more comprehensive in what they can offer. So these are batteries that are designed to back up your home. And you might not be backing up all of your home, but you might be backing up critical or key circuits that you want to make sure you have access to if the grid goes down. So these are the 2 options that are available through the Solarize Ventura County program. And both of these products are warranted for 10 years or 10,000 cycles. So really great peace of mind to have this paired with your solar system, because if you do just have solar, unfortunately, when the grid goes down, your solar system also goes down. But when you have it paired with one of these built-in solar batteries, you're going to have secure, safe, reliable backup power. All right, and so again, these are great solutions because we usually want power when the grid goes down. There's also some benefits in avoiding the highest cost electricity. Again, I'm using this term of load shifting, but you're able to store up your own solar electricity and then use that electricity in the evening rather than purchasing the more expensive electricity on the grid. If you're thinking about this from being a benefit to society, there are also regional grid benefits. So you might not think about that too often, but there are certain times of the day when our electricity grid is really stressed because a lot of people are using electricity at the same time in the evening, air conditioning. So by becoming a little bit more self-reliant, you are part of the solution. You're also eligible, or these technologies are also eligible for that 26% or 22% next year federal tax credit. So a quick example, how much will this cost? I just used the Powerwall as an example here. You're looking at about a $15,000 upfront cost. The tax credit, which we might want to be modeling 22% here, drops that down to closer to $11,000 or $12,000. So certainly still an investment, but you're paying for peace of mind, absolutely. And when you're thinking about whether you want to have a battery, really thinking through what circuits do you absolutely need? Where do you want to put the battery? Certain batteries are better inside versus outside. And then whether or not you already have solar and whether you plan to participate in a demand response program from the local utility. So for instance, Clean Power Alliance has a program, they call it their Power Response Program, that you can enroll in if you are a battery customer. And the gist of it here is that you agree to modulate your electricity usage, AKA turn on your battery whenever there is a call from CPA to do so. So by participating in this program, you get about $100 a year. And it's actually something that is pretty easy because these batteries are programmed to turn on during high power demand events. And as long as that's how you decide to program your battery. And that might be a little bit scary, but this is something that the solar companies are here to help you with. And if you have any questions for them, please enter them in the Q&A. All right, and one last thing for an incentive here. There is a program from California that does offer free batteries if you happen to be a medical baseline customer and live in a high fire zone. Okay, so I would like to welcome a community member who participated in Solarize Ventura County, well, Solarize Ventura last year, Richard Baldwin. Would you mind sharing your story as an electric vehicle owner and a solar customer?
Thank you. So about 15 to 20 years ago, I researched installing solar on my house, and at that time, payback was about 25 years and the life of the system was about 15 years, so that wasn't very good. Then my house burned down in the Thomas fire. That changed all of the solar math. The new building codes to rebuild a house required that we be prepared to install solar and to have a wall charger. But we didn't have to actually put them in. We just had to be ready wired for them. So I began research on what solar system to do, to buy, and how to pay for it and all that. And I checked in and looked at what other contractors were doing, and I decided to go with Solarize Ventura program. And one of the key reasons for my decision was that this program was being sponsored by the CEC. The potential contractors had been vetted by the CEC and the city of Ventura, among others. So in other words, a lot of people, a whole lot smarter than me about solar systems and solar contractors were helping me, which I appreciated. Anyway, I ended up installing a 4.16 kilowatt peak system with a battery backup. We have 13 325 watt panels on the roof, and they have a 25-year warranty, which is much better than the 15-year warranty that I was looking at 15, 20 years ago. and a whole lot cheaper now. So the sizing of my system was based on 2 years of recent electricity use before the house burned down. We did many things to improve the energy efficiency of a house and the design of it. So we expected our usage to go down, but then I decided to put air conditioning in because I've never had that and things are getting hotter. And we wanted to get an EV, so I needed a wire or a charger. So that increased total projected usage. So we don't know yet what our balance is going to be, but for about the first 8 months of this year, we were actually net energy exporters. It's kind of neat going out and look at the meter pointing toward the street instead of coming inside and listening to the presentation. On the time, I'm on prime time of use because I have an electric vehicle. And so I charge really early in the morning or really late at night to get cheap electricity. And we do very little usage of between 4 and 9 p.m. so that all our solar is going into the grid. But our net energy exporting is just barely neutral. We're making a little bit of money from Edison, we hope to be. So I'm thinking about adding more panels to get a slightly larger system. With increasing temperatures, we might be using our air conditioning a lot more. We also have a 9.3 kilowatt hour battery backup. And so based on our nighttime usage in an outage, the battery would be good for about 900 hours if fully charged. Based on our normal daytime use, it's more like 4 or 5 hours. But as just mentioned, you don't have all of your circuits hooked up to your battery. I have 5 circuits. The most important one is my refrigerator. And then I have a light upstairs, a light downstairs circuit in case the power goes out at night. And we've had 2 power outages since we've installed this, and the battery kicked in just like it's supposed to. And that was a really good feeling. Also associated with this, I have a gas powered car that it's a 2004 model, a bit old, and 250,000 miles on it, although it still runs like it's brand new, so I'm not getting rid of it. I did a lot of research on EVs and test drove some of them and concluded that for our normal needs, the Tesla Model 3 would be the best fit, which is what you see right there. And so far, our longest trip has been to Sacramento. And that was pretty neat. We made one stop, had breakfast on the way up and got charged. And on the way back, we made one stop and had a lunch while we were getting charged and then kept on going. And it was really fast. As part of our house construction, we installed a 240 volt, 50 amp circuit on the wall with a level 2 charger. And so all of our EV charging is done at home, except when we're on a trip. And you see it there in a picture being charged right now, which is, so bottom line is when I said I'm a net exporter, including charging my car. So it's pretty neat that I'm not paying anything for gas. But as a cost benefit, given our energy savings, the financial credits that we received and the gas that we're no longer buying for our second car, I'm looking at about an 8 to 10 year payback for the system. But I got to keep in mind when calculating that payback is my other car, which isn't in the picture, uses premium gasoline, which is not cheap, and we drive it a lot. So there was that was like a $1,300 a year savings there. So overall, the system has worked great, and we love that battery backup. Like I said, it worked twice. That's it.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Richard. Fantastic. I'm so happy that you had a good experience. And you mentioned that you have had some power outages and the battery turned on just fine.
Yeah, we had 2. There were planned outages for work that was going to be done. So we got a warning saying it was going to shut down. It did. And the battery kept us going. It was great.
Wonderful. And has it been easy to be an owner of a battery, or has it been, what's that been like? I mean, did you have to program it, or was there a lot of setup involved?
Have to program the battery?
I mean, has it been pretty easy for you to have a battery?
Don't do anything. It's all set up on the circuit, and I have. Well, you can see in the underneath the battery, there's a black box on the left, and that's the circuit for the 5 house circuits that runs from the main panel, which is just outside on the other side of that wall, and those circuits go into the house to run the refrigerator. It's a key one that I worry about, and then a light circuit upstairs, a light circuit downstairs, and basic and a garage light.
All right.
Everything worked perfect. I haven't done anything. I just use it.
That's what we want to hear. Fantastic. All right, well, we're getting to 1 o'clock here, so we need to wrap things up. Thank you again for sharing your experience. If you didn't get your questions answered, please feel free to follow up on solarizeventura.org. That's also the place to sign up to get a quote from one of our or both of our installer partners, as you prefer. And we'll be sending these slides out after this presentation. Definitely want to thank our partners here, City of Camarillo, County of Ventura, City of Ventura, Ventura County Regional Energy Alliance, and the City of Thousand Oaks. And just a reminder, this webinar has been presented by the Community Environmental Council, recently recognized as a 2020 California Nonprofit of the Year. And we certainly appreciate your support. And here's some ways to give, also available on our website, CECSB.org. Thank you again, and take care.